Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Inside the Playbook with my special guest tonight is going to be Coach Jerry Hernandez. If this is your first time tuning in, or if you're a repeat viewer, I do appreciate your support. And if you haven't already, do me that huge favor. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share on the YouTube channel, and hit that little bell so you'll get alerts when Hbtv is on live. So without further ado, help me bring in my next guest, Coach Jerry Hernandez. Coach, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
How are you doing tonight, Coach?
I'm doing great, Harry. I'm doing well down here. We just recovered from a little hurricane action down here and knocked us for a loop, but we're used to it down here. But we're doing fine now.
And do me a favor, Coach. Just tell the audience, where exactly are you from, and what happened over there recently.
Well, I'm born and raised here in New Orleans, and all of my years I've lived here, except when I was in the service and away at college. So I'm born and raised here in New Orleans, and I live in Metairie now, which is a suburb of New Orleans, and been here all my life, and fortunate enough to be able to work here all my life as well.
That's great, Coach. So do me a favor. There's going to be some viewers on here who possibly don't know you, and again, for the millions that are about to watch this episode after we we are done recording it, can you tell the audience a little bit of who Jerry Hernandez is, and what you have done and what you do?
Well, I've again born and raised here in New Orleans, and I've got three children, and we just had our ninth grandchild.
Oh, wow.
So that keeps us busy. I just retired last year in 2019 after teaching and coaching for 45 years, 13 of those as a head coach at Loyola University in New Orleans.
Wow.
And the other years were pretty much split between being an assistant coach and a head coach. So I've been in all the arenas as far as positions go. I'm a Marine Corps Vietnam veteran. I'm very proud of that, and I'm a basketball junkie. And here I am retired and still got my fingers in it. So I'm a basketball person, but I'm also an athletic person, and understand the importance and how athletics can help a lot of people. But basketball has been my life, and still is part of it, even though I'm retired.
Well, Coach, first of all, thank you for your service. HBTV, myself, as I told you before, I'm a Navy kid, Navy brat. We always support our military and our servicemen and women, and also the service wives, right? So they're the ones who hold down the house and help out and take care of the children while either the men or the women are out there serving.
No question.
Again, the reason why I wanted to bring you on, Coach, is to talk about your journey. And as you know, the title of this show is called Inside the Playbook with. It's not so much necessarily X's and O's, and we will talk about that a little bit, but just exactly what some highlights of what worked with you or for you during the years of, like you just said, 45 years of experience of coaching and teaching. Just your playbook in that, and just what helped you out throughout your career, your coaching experiences, life in general. You being a father, a husband, now a grandfather as well. So I want to take that back to the beginning, basically. I want to talk. Were you a basketball player, or did you play sports yourself back in high school, or in your younger days?
Well, back when I was young, there wasn't much to do other than to go back to the playground and play sports, and I did that from the time I was about 6 years old, and the way this coaching thing came about was, I played all through high school, played basketball and especially baseball, and played more baseball than basketball because we played that during the year and also during the summers. That there wasn't any AAU basketball back then. There wasn't anything other than during basketball season. So I actually played more baseball than anything. But I went to college and I was inspired by one of my high school teachers, a man by the name of Felix Godin, who just passed away in the last couple of years. And he just inspired me. He was a great biology and science teacher. And heck, man, when I graduated from high school and going to college, I wanted to be a biologist, and that's what he was. And one thing led to another. After 1 year, I ended up going into the Marine Corps and got sent to Vietnam. And I can remember, at night we would go sit on our defense perimeter, and you'd be out there from like about 9 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock the next morning, and you were sitting up there at night, in the dark, and you had a guy with you, a foxhole buddy, if you want to call him that. And, I was with the same guy for about 7 months, and we got to be really good friends. And, you'd sit out there and you couldn't talk because you didn't know what was out there. And there was a lot of time to think about things,
Sure.
And I can remember one night, he was sleeping and I was awake, and I'm just thinking about, what am I going to do when I get out of here? I'm going to have the GI Bill to go back to school when I get back to the States, and if I make it, if I don't get my butt shot and killed, but if I can get back, what do I want to do? And I would think about that a lot. And it's one particular night, I said, what, I said, you've been playing sports since you've been 6 years old, man. It's all you did, and didn't worry about studying much. All I want to do is play ball.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't you be a coach? And I said, man, I think I want to be a coach. And from that time on, I just, as soon as I got out of the Marine Corps, I went back to school on a GI Bill and majored in physical education and minored in English, and graduated and started coaching. And I was, but 46 years ago now, so that's how I kind of got started in this thing. And I started out as an assistant basketball coach, and it just kind of, you know how the coaching profession is. You go from one place to another, and you go up and down and around, and I think most people like that. Some people are fortunate enough to get someplace and stay there for 35 years, or 40 years. And I wasn't one of them, but I've been fortunate to be able to do it for 45 years. But that's how I got started in it. Just sitting out there in that side of that mountain, and in the middle of the night, saying, "Oh, I think I want to be a coach." And I'm fortunate enough to have been able to do that.
So, did you start your coaching after you graduated college? And you talked about being an assistant basketball coach, but did you ever get into coaching baseball as well?
Yeah, I did. I was an assistant coach probably for about 7 years or 8 years along the way at two different places, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. And again, I still enjoy baseball. My grandson plays in high school now. He's a senior, and been able to go watch him play, and it's I enjoy going out there. I like to get out there early and watch him take infield practice and stuff like that. I just love all that stuff.
Hey, who's your MLB teams, Coach? Who do you follow?
Well, look, man. Hey, look, either the Red Sox or the Yankees, and as we said earlier, they don't like each other, but
right.
Somehow I like both of them. It's either one. I like the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Okay, yeah. Well, like I mentioned before, I'm a Padres fan myself, but just another shout out to Los Angeles for winning that World Series this time. So
oh yeah.
we got. I know in the live chat, Coach. I got one Yankees fan as well. His name is Michael Cullen, a good friend of mine, and we got a couple people here in the chat. We got Jared and I'm gonna say Sasnlex is on here as well. So we've got a couple people in the chat and a couple people viewing. And again, if you guys want to ask Coach a question, if anybody's viewing, part of Coach's network, maybe some old school students or players or any other colleagues and coaches, go ahead and chime in the chat and join me and ask Coach some questions, and I'll field those questions and give it to him as well. So Coach, going back into coaching, you got in, you did your tour in Vietnam. Again, thank you for your service. You come back home, you major in physical education, man of my own heart as well. I majored in physical education as well and got the master's in education. So, during that time when you were coaching, how was it? What was the atmosphere back then, and who were those top coaches during that time? And you talked about one person who inspired you for biology, but what about the coaches that inspired you to actually be that coach? You set yourself forth in the 45 years you had that experience. Who was that first coach or first coaches for you?
Well, I'm not sure that there was one guy in particular when I first started coaching that I looked to. I guess I kind of made my way through coaching by looking at the people that I worked with, people that I coached against, and a lot of times when and I don't do it much anymore, but I used to do a lot of talking at banquets and things for junior high kids and things of that nature. And I used to tell them that I was I'd open up and say, look, I'm a thief, and they would give this look, and even the parents at the banquet would say, this guy is a thief, what's wrong with him? And I told them, I said, look, I don't steal things. I steal candy bars out of convenience stores, or I don't steal money. I said, but what I do is I steal ideas, and I steal techniques, and I look at people who are successful and say, maybe I can do that too, and that's what I think a lot of people do, and a lot of times they don't admit it. They want to say, oh yeah, I did this, I did that, but hell, man, I'm the biggest thief around. I look at people who are successful and say, man, what did they do? How did they get to be where they are, and what made them a success? And I've been fortunate to be able to be the assistant coach to some really great coaches, and I've stole so much from them, especially Jimmy Tillett, and he ended up being the head coach at Samford University in Birmingham and going to the NCAA tournament. And Dwayne Rebold, I was his assistant for 6 years, and I've been knowing him for over 50 years, and he ended up being the head coach at Birmingham Southern and won 2 NAIA national championships. And so I've been able to work with some good people. I've been able to coach against great coaches, and man, look, if they did something that looked good, man, heck, I stole it from them, man. And so and there have been some coaches that I really admired, especially Coach Floyd, Tim Floyd, who wrote the foreword to my book, and I got a chance to meet him when he first became the head coach at University of New Orleans, and was fortunate enough to be able to go watch him practice a lot, and he's been a great friend to me, especially in writing the book, and he's just an incredible person. He's a great college basketball coach, and but there have been so many, and in fact, just a couple of days ago, a guy that I used to really get a kick out of, and I used to love watching the coach, is Billy Tubbs. He just passed away the last 2 or 3 days, and man, I used to watch him coach, and man, he was a character, man, and the famous technical foul when people were throwing stuff on the court in one of his games, and he went to the microphone and said, look, you need to stop throwing things on the court. He says, I don't care how bad the officiating is. He said, you got to stop throwing that stuff. Well, they kicked him out of the game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, there's just been so many coaches that have influenced me and things that I've seen. So it's not one in particular, but I've just kind of made my way and, you know, picked up things and did them. And if they didn't work, I didn't use them anymore. If they did work, I kept them. You know, so, but a lot of coaches, you know.
That's great, Coach, and I'm glad you mentioned that. As far as you say you're a thief, but I agree. Coaching to me, I believe, is a fraternity. And you should be able to have that brotherhood with each coach and be able to share that knowledge and do it in the masters as well. When you're in the master's program, when you're doing your research, you're taking different excerpts from people's work, and then you're giving them that credit as well. So I'm sure you give all of your coaches credit, and what you take and what you use, and I'm a big Bruce Lee fan. I'm pretty sure you heard that name and know a little bit about him, but he always talked about taking what works for you and use it from whatever you see from other people, whatever inspires you, put it into your own mix, make it your own. And just keep on redefining yourself from there. So I totally agree with you. If you're not doing that, and everybody's doing that, you're not growing, you're not learning. So that's great stuff. So you go in and have these influences during that time. You're coaching high school. I'm going to be assuming that for your first
Yes,
opportunities. So you're doing
absolutely.
that. You're gaining steam on that. And then you had mentioned earlier you did talk about 13 years of your 45 was with the Loyola University out in your part, right? Tell me about
Yes,
that
Loyola
experience
University, New Orleans. Yes.
in New Orleans, and tell me about that experience and coming from that high school level. I'm just going to assume you transitioning to there. Like, how was that experience, and how was that for you at that level, coming from the high school level or whatever level you just came from?
Well, that probably was one of the most unique situations that anybody could ever have gone into, because in 1972, Loyola had disbanded athletics. They were a Division One program.
Mm.
At one point, they were NAIA and transitioned to Division One. And in 1972, the university decided to disband the whole program. So 19 years later, in 1992, 93, one of the students got behind a push and got the student body, and they petitioned the university to bring athletics back. And the university administration said, "Sure, you can bring it back, but you know, there's two circumstances. Number one, we're not going to give athletic scholarships, and number two, you're going to have to raise your own money."
Mm.
So the students voted to assess themselves a pretty small fee to fund athletics. In fact, the funny thing, when I got offered the job, which, that's a long story, but when I got offered the job, I took a pay cut from high school. I was making $31,000 as a head basketball coach at St. Martin's Episcopal School, and they offered me the job at Loyola at $26,000 as a head coach in 1992. So I didn't have any money either. Neither did our players, but in the program. But the first year, I didn't get the job until August,
Mm.
and so that first year, the athletic director, an incredible man by the name of Craig Bogar, who was the athletic director, who really did incredible work to get this thing going. He had made a 19-game schedule, and so I didn't have a chance to get any kids in school, and so we had tryouts, and I think we had something like 13 or 14 guys try out for the team, and they had 51 girls try out for cheerleader. Hell, they had 51 cheerleaders, and 12 or 13 players, and of those players, like 5 or 6 of them had never played high school ball. So I can tell you, it was a rough year. We didn't win a game. I thought I was able to win 2 games against Jimmy Swaggart Bible College, but they ended up closing the school down because their benefactor got in some trouble, and they closed the school down. So I never got a chance to play those 2 games. But that was how we started. But I went out and I was able to recruit kids who wanted to come play ball. I didn't have any scholarships, and you know, we didn't really have any money other than the student fee and any money that we could raise. And it was, we're going to write a book. Many of the players have said, Coach, we're going to get together and write a book, because the things that happened during those years were things that it's just hard to explain, you know. And, you know, we would go on the road, and I'd give them $3 for breakfast, $4 for lunch, and $5 for dinner, you know, and that's what we had.
Yeah.
You know, and but they were incredible young guys, and those were the same guys that 3 years later we went to the national tournament.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing, Coach.
They were just last year recently inducted into the, our team was inducted into the Loyola Wolfpack Athletics Hall of Fame, and I'm so happy for those guys. I mean, they deserved it, and nobody would have ever thought that we would be able to do this with no institutional funding, no scholarships, and you know, and it wasn't all that cheap to go to Loyola University, you know. So
right, yeah. I mean, Jesuit school, and I got a couple of buddies who went to Loyola Marymount here. But again, everybody, you guys are watching Hbtv Inside the Playbook with my special guest tonight, Coach Jerry Hernandez. We're just talking about his journey and his experiences as a coach. Coach, we actually got somebody here, Mike Payton. I hope I'm saying that last name right, but he says in the chat, he says, I met Coach in those years after bringing back basketball with no scholarships. How Coach fought and scraped and hustled is nothing short of amazing. He's a stud who influenced a lot of lives. So I'm assuming Mike is one of your former players, or maybe one of your assistant coaches. But it's great that you had mentioned that, and thank you, Mike, for mentioning that and putting that in the chat. But a lot of people don't realize and understand, and a lot of the other coaches talk about it as well. You know, you're not really going to get rich, you know, being a basketball coach or any type of coach, especially at the high school level. Or, you know, like you just said, now you had to take a pay cut with 26,000, you know, for 26,000 from 31,000. But I mean, people, you know, can look that up on Google and whatever else. It's all about that passion. It's all about that love for what you do. With that being said, Coach, okay, so you know you're seeing the challenges. No scholarships. Your stipend of $2, $3, and $4 a day on road trips and whatever you have to do for your players. Mike says something else into my chat here, which I'm gonna ask you. But you know, he talks about, how do you communicate enthusiasm? How do you keep inspiring these kids? I'm gonna say these young men that you're mentoring and that you're coaching, knowing that you don't have any scholarships, knowing that, you know, you see other programs out there like your Dukes, the Syracuses out there, the Georgetowns, you know, some of our private schools just like yours, and they're giving these players their scholarships. How do you keep these guys motivated? And like Mike said, how do you preach that enthusiasm to these kids to say, hey man, let's it's all about the basketball. Let's go out there and play.
Yeah, well, you know, I think as Mike Patan.
Patan.
P-A-T-I-N, yeah, Patan. Yeah. That's the Cajun way of saying it now.
Okay.
Mike,
apologize, Mike.
Mike is a former basketball coach and ended up being, if you want to call it, a spiritual advisor. He would come to our preseason retreats and talk to the kids, and Mike is a motivational speaker, and that's what he does, and he's an incredibly inspiring person. Mike is, and you know, I can tell you, he's one of my heroes. But anyway, you know, I tell you what I did. You know, I went out and recruited, and you know, I didn't have anything to offer those kids. You know, we couldn't offer them anything, and had nothing. I mean, I couldn't give out a meal card. You know, but I tell you what I did. I recruited character. You know, I started out with, you know, I recruited kids with the 3 Ps. They had to pass. They had to pass academically. They had to pay financially, and then if they could do those two things, then I could see about getting guys that can play.
Yeah.
You know, but I recruited character, and not only did I recruit them, I recruited their parents. And I would go out and talk to kids, and you know, I was honest with them. I said, "Man, look, I can't offer you anything, you know, other than to come in and play basketball for the love of the game. And you know, we want people to come in and get their degree. And you know, I can honestly say that in my 13 years there, every kid who finished out their 4-year career graduated 100%. And that goes from the very beginning, you know, because I recruited character, and they not only had character, they were characters. And it was an incredible 13 years. And the motivation was almost innate with them. You know, I mean, heck, I was so motivated. There was sometimes I was too motivated.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, there were times it was like, man, what the hell did you do? You know, I mean, what did you get into? But all I had to do was look at these guys and see how they played, and they played with their hearts as much as any group of people that I've ever been around in those 13 years, because I couldn't give them anything.
Yeah.
Never could. You know, and now, fortunately, they've had great administrations, and they give scholarships out, and it's the program has built up a number of sports, and it's a great athletic program at Loyola University. But you know, those guys motivated me. You know, and I guess, you know, and I'm still close to so many of those kids today. I mean, I say kids, many are men now. I mean, you know, their kids are going to college, and
yeah.
You know, hell, I've got one of them whose son's getting ready to be a doctor. You know,
Wow.
and I mean, they motivated me, you know, more than me motivating them. I can say that, and they know it. You know, they know it. You know, so we've got a great relationship, and it's, you know, again, it's one of the outgrowths of being a coach, as you well know, is the relationships that you form. You know.
Yes. Very, very important. And thank you for that, Coach. I do appreciate that, and thank you, Mike, for asking that question. Just a segue now, as far as what I want to talk about next is actually this book. And thank you for sending this book, Coach. 600 plus little things to make a big difference for boys and girls basketball coaches, right? Talk a little bit about this. Like, what motivated you to even write this book, and how did that come about, and when did you actually do it? When did you have time to do this?
Well, you know, I'll tell you, I was a physical education major, and I got my master's degree in physical education. I was an English minor, and I had one of my college professors, you know, told me. He said, "Listen," he said, "you know, you're a PE major." He said, "But if you're going to be a basketball coach," he said, "you had better get a second teaching field." He said, "Because all those PE jobs go to football coaches," and he said, "You better get something to teach." He said, "Is there something that you like?" I said, "Well, I like to read." He said, "Well, why don't you major in English, a minor in English?" So he said, "You can get an English teaching job, and you know, faster you can get a physical education job." Well, you know, for 30 plus years in high school, I was an English teacher. You know, so I gained a great appreciation for reading and writing. I think, you know, whatever skill I have in writing comes from teaching it. And as we all know, sometimes the best way to learn something is to teach it.
Right.
And you know, so I've always wanted to write something. You know, especially as I went on, I said, "Man, I'd like to write a book one day." You know, I think everybody wants to do that, I think, secretly. So anyway, with the you know, after I retired, and you know, with the COVID-19 thing, and everybody was kind of stuck at home, and I said, "Man, you know, maybe this is about time for me to maybe write a book." And you know, so I sat down for a couple of days. Hell, I never got anywhere. You know, I said, "Man, what do I write about?" And I said, "What, you know, let me get a plot." And nothing ever happened. I said, hell, the only thing I damn know is about basketball.
Yeah.
You know, and I remembered something I had done about 25 years ago, 26 years ago now, when I was at Loyola. The Louisiana High School Athletic Association asked me to be one of the presenters at their summer coaching clinic. And I've been doing clinics, you know, for playgrounds and coaches and different coaching clinics and things. But they asked me to do this, and I said, well, and they said, you could talk about anything you want. And I said, well, let me try something different. So I wrote down about 20, 25 little things that I did. Because most of the time when you go to coaching clinics, you know, and, you know, they let me show you this out of bounds play, and let me show you this last second play, and this is what we do offensively, this is what we do defensively. I said, let me do something different. So I wrote down these 20 or 25 little things, and so I presented it to the group of coaches that were there, you know, and talked about a minute or two about each one of them, you know, and I filled up the hour. And after it was over, you know, several coaches came up and said, Coach, I appreciate you doing that, because we've never heard a talk like that before, you know, and this is some really good stuff. Well, here it is 26 years later, and I'm sitting home, and I'm saying, man, I'll write a book about basketball. I said, you know what? I remember what I did 26 years ago. I said, if I can come up with a bunch of little things, not X's and O's, but little things, you know, I said, I think it would be a great help to coaches, because coaches, yeah, you can go on the internet now, you can find 50 out of bounds plays in 30 minutes.
Sure.
You know? So I started writing them down, and I said, man, if I could get about 300 or 400 of these things, I said, man, that might be pretty good. Maybe I could put something together. And I said, well, hell, I ain't smart enough to do 300 or 400 of these things. So I said, I'm going to start asking some of the guys that I have a lot of respect for as coaches, guys that have been successful, guys that I know that are good people, and guys that run great programs. So I invited about 29 or 30 coaches. You know, I called them up, and, you know, I said, man, look, this is what I want. I want to put this book together, and it's just little things. You know, so I'd come up with 27 different categories, and ranging from preseason to conditioning to practice, pre-practice, post-practice, during practice, halftime, timeouts, substitutions, how to deal with some things you do with your parents, things you do with teachers, administrators, assistant coaches, officials. How do you set up your scorers table? How do you deal with managers? Just all T-shirts, just all kind of things. And the coaches that I asked were so enthusiastic about it, and some of them sent me 8 or 10 things. Some of them sent me 25 or 30 things.
Yeah.
You know, and so I cataloged them and put them all together, and hell, I came up with 654 of them. You know, and that's where the title of the book comes from: 600 plus little things that make a big difference. You know, and I tell you, I am so proud of those guys, and I'm so proud of the book. You know, I mean, all I did was put it together. You know,
right.
And you know, I mean, I wrote the first chapter, which I entitled "Tip Off."
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was pretty neat.
It was
pretty
cool,
clever. And the final chapter called "Final Buzzer." You know, so. But Coach Floyd wrote the foreword to the book, which is awesome. I mean,
right.
He did such a great job in that, and so, you know, these guys, and they're listed all in the back of the book in a little short bio about each one of them, and you know, they're great coaches. And you know, I've got one guy that's won over 1,000 games, Coach Danny Broussard from St. Thomas More in Lafayette. He's won over 1,000 basketball games. Another one, Kenny Allman, I think won 930 games, and a bunch of guys that have won 600, 500, 600, 700 games, and won, you know, championships and stuff. And the total number of wins with these guys are over 11,000 wins, and 49 state or conference championships. I mean, these guys know how to do it, and they do it the right way, you know. And you know, so the book just came out really, really good. And one of my former students is the general manager of a big publishing company in New Orleans. And I went to him for some advice, and he said, Coach, I can publish the book for you. And he gave it to his graphic artist, and that's why we got that beautiful cover that kind of jumps out at you. And he put everything together, and she asked me for some pictures, and I brought her a bunch of pictures, and she took some and put them in. And some of them are crazy pictures in there, and some of them are great pictures, and it's I've asked some of the coaches for their favorite locker room slogans, and I'm a big locker room slogan guy, man.
Yeah,
And,
I'm actually looking at this one right now. And what's great about this book is the quotes that you have. Like here's a couple of them. You put a sign at the entrance to the locker room, and it says, "Only those players that are all in may enter." Now I think that speaks volumes. Obviously, I mean, like you got to buy in, from the jump. This one right here, it says, "The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war." United States Marine Corps. So, just things like that. It's great. Good is the enemy of great. You have a lot of quotes in here. Like you said, you break it down with the help, obviously, like you just said, with all the other coaches, from like the practice gear to shooter shirts, etc. So, when we talk about this show, Inside the Playbook this is actually the book of being inside the playbook. Like, we're not talking about X's and O's. We're talking about all the other things that have made it, a successful situation, experience for not only yourself, but for those coaches and those individuals that you admire and look up to, and have done some great things in their coaching career. So again, everybody, check that out. I'll have that information for you guys in the video description. Check that out. If you guys are coaching any type of sports program, doesn't need to be basketball. It could be another sport. It all ties in. 600 plus little things, to make that big difference in your program.
And as I'm gathering all this information from all these colleagues, I started getting mad, and I said, man, why didn't I think of this stuff, man? I said, if I had this book 45 years ago, hell, I'd have won a few more games, But it almost made me want to get back into coaching, almost, But there's another unintended outcome of the book that many of the coaches told me. As I was asking them, and I gave them the 27 categories. Many of them told me, you know what this has done? This has made me self-evaluate my own program.
Yeah.
When I looked at all of these categories, and I think that's a good thing. I think we all need to self-evaluate ourselves all the time. I think we need to constantly look and say, where am I? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing it the right way? And that was one of the things that was the outgrowth of these things, you can. There's so many things in here. I was blown away by the insight and the knowledge that these guys just helped me put together. And there are so many ideas in here, so many things in so many categories that you can look at one of these things and say, hey, look, man, I love this thing, but I don't know if I can do it this way. I'd like to do it this way, but it's still, you get the idea from the things in the book, So it's just been great. It's just been a great thing, and it's something that I think that I wanted to do to help other coaches and share. You had mentioned that a little earlier, that coaches, it's a brotherhood, it's a fraternity, and when you share things, that I think all coaches are willing to do that, and this is the ultimate as far as I'm concerned, and 30 guys that have won over 11,000 games, there got to be some good things in here, I can tell you, and there's some of them that I just love, some of the things, and I'm just really proud of the book, and I'm proud of the guys that helped me put it together,
That's good stuff, Coach. I do have a David Bond here in the chat, and David is asking, "Hey, Coach, congrats on the book. Can you talk a little bit about the different challenges of coaching kids 30 to 40 years ago than the kids that you coach or the students that you coach 5 to 10 years ago?" So, what would be the biggest difference and challenges?
David played for us when I was an assistant coach at Jesuit High School many years ago. David was one of our players and remains a very, very close friend today.
Yeah.
He lives in Houston, Texas now, and been living there for a long time, but David is one of my great friends, and it is different. It is different, and I think the challenge is that 30, 40 years ago, guys were that they were able to take tough coaching a little easier. They were able to take criticism. They didn't mind being coached hard and being coached with enthusiasm. And today it's a little bit different. Sometimes I think people today worry about how kids feel and worry about their feelings rather than how they're going to turn out. And we all know life ain't getting any easier.
Yeah.
And there's not very many people that care about you other than your parents, your family, your teachers, your coaches, and maybe some good friends. And sometimes that doesn't work out real well. But other than that, man, there's not too many people that care about you. And you're going to have to deal with tough situations. And I think in today's society, I think sometimes the young people don't understand that. And that, to me, that's the biggest difference. I mean, back then, man, you could tell somebody, and chew their butt out a little bit, and they'd say, yes, sir, and they'd just go out and try to prove you wrong. Today they want to, hey, man, you're gonna hurt my feelings, man.
Yeah.
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 Tell that when a guy elbows you in the mouth trying to get a rebound. You gonna gripe about that?
Yeah. Just a different time, a different era. Different generation with it. I'm with you, Coach. That's how I operated when I was playing high school basketball as well. That's all I knew. I just figured that's what coaches do, man. They yell at you, they get on you, they jump on you, and you're gonna be running some suicides, believe it or not, every day at the end of practice for even for the stuff that you did great. So that's the school I was from. But again, I totally agree with you about that. I haven't been able and had the opportunity to coach basketball teams in probably about 8 years now. And just, to me, I feel I've been detached from that coaching arena that long. And I agree with you. I would have to relearn actually having to making those connections with my players and students again. But it is something I do miss and do love, and I wish I had more time to do it. But maybe in the future that will come.
But one thing too, Harry, is you don't love them any less.
Right,
you don't love and you don't give any less effort to the guys today than you did 30 or 40 years ago.
Absolutely.
You just have to go about it the same way. And I had to learn as I went along. Yeah. I can tell you, I made mistakes and I quickly learned. So it's all a challenge, and it's all the outcomes the same. You want to coach character. You want to coach with for them to live a life with honor and integrity, and it works out. It works out for them better in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, everybody, you guys are watching Hbtv. Thank you for joining us tonight. Inside the Playbook with my special guest tonight, Coach Jerry Hernandez. Coach, I do want to transition to something else that you've done. You've had a great career, 45 plus years of coaching. You're successful with writing this book, and again, I'll get you guys the information in the video description for you guys to check that out and order a copy for yourselves. And also, I want to talk about this, Coach. This little flyer, the Athletic Trinity. Can they coexist? Is what it says on the flyer, which is cool. A seminar for all parents and coaches. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in this seminar? And how you give out information and education for parents and coaches in this.
Well, for as long as I can remember, the athletic trinity: parents, players, and coaches. How do you coexist? There's always issues. There's always some problems. Sometimes more so than others. And I just I just wanted every kid who makes a commitment to be an athlete, and if you don't think athletics is important, I mean, centuries ago, Plato said, you can learn more about a person in an hour of play than you can in a year of conversation. And when you're competing in athletics, a lot happens, and you can learn a lot. But what I think parents don't realize is that they are the most important coach. That they can make their child's athletic experience a good one, and they can make it a miserable one. And this is what this seminar is about. It's about helping parents make the athletic experience for their children as good as it possibly could be, regardless of their sport, regardless of their talent level, regardless of whether they play or not, and I just think it's so important, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. And the seminars that I've given over the years, there's some years that the last 7 or 8 years I haven't been able to do it because I just my job, my teaching and coaching job didn't allow me to take time off and go do that. But I'm getting back into it again. It's timeless, the same thing that's important now was important, 20, 30 years ago, but to help parents make that experience a good one, I think is invaluable, not only to them but to their children who are athletes. And it's been pretty well received, and I've been a parent and a coach,
right.
And I've been an athlete, so I've been all three of those things to a great extent, not just on the periphery, but I know, and before I did this, I talked to coaches, I talked to kids, I talked to parents, and I put together this program that I think is pretty good. And I love to do it. I love to do this as much as I love coaching.
So how would people get in touch with you to try to get this for you to come to either their school or their city? Like how does that work for you to do that?
Well, they can just go to the website. They just go to my website, sportseducationexperience.com. And if they go to that, all one word, the web address, www.sportseducationexperience.com, and there's a link on there that says the Athletic Trinity, and it'll give you a little bit more information, and all my contact information's on there. I'll be glad to send the brochure out to athletic directors or even coaches to give. I've got two of them, two of my guys. One's a former assistant coach, and one's one of my former players.
Yeah.
And they're going to suggest to their ADs and principals for me to come to their schools and do it for their parents. And I really think the parents feel a lot better. They feel as though they walk away with some tools and some techniques that they can have. Because a lot of times, as parents, man, we fly by the seat of our pants a lot of times, and sometimes we don't know the right way to do things, and we just try this and try that, and and sometimes we let our emotions get the best of us and say, man, my kid ought to be playing, and and that they don't know how to handle it, and this helps them do that. And I like I said, I'm very passionate about it, and I think it's valuable.
Now, is this something you do, Coach? Do you go live? Like, do you visit the facility or the school, or is like now because of of COVID, is it more on Zoom now?
Well, I'm hoping that I haven't done anything with Zoom, but I'm hoping to be able to start it in next school year. Hopefully when things have calmed down and to go. But I like to go visit the schools, and it's not for kids. It's not for the players. It's just for parents. And if coaches want to attend, they can do it. But it's really mostly for parents. And it's all intertwined. Once the parents get some ideas about what coaches want, and we talk about that, what do coaches want? A lot of parents don't know what coaches want, and a lot of parents don't really understand sometimes what their kids want. Sometimes we think that what we want is what our children want.
Sure.
And that's not the case a lot of times. We think, well, hey, how come? Yeah, well, I like that. How come you don't like that? Well, hey, we're different people. And sometimes that gets in the way of things.
Right.
But we talk about techniques and how do you deal with that? What happens when your level of commitment is not the same as your child's level of commitment? And sometimes that doesn't work. That they knock heads. But there's ways of dealing with it. And I think it makes parents feel a lot better about how they handle their child's athletic experience. But they're the most important coach. There's no question. There's no question about it. And sometimes it's better not to do anything.
Right.
Let them work through it. Let them work through it, because that's what's going to make them young men and young women. And it's they're not going to have a crutch all their lives, so they're going to have to learn how to deal with problems and things that they don't like themselves, and they turn out to be much better people for that.
And this is for both like high school level, and you talk to colleges as well, and the students at the college level as well.
Usually when they get to college, it's long past that,
Right.
and there's not a whole lot of, as you well know, because you were a college coach, there's not a whole lot of parental involvement in college sports, but in high school and middle school, especially in late middle school, that's when I think parents should really start to look at things like this, because those who go on to high school ball, I think it can help them from the very beginning, So,
right. Well, sounds interesting, Coach, and that's great stuff. I'll put that information in our video description. We're pretty much coming to the end of our time, Coach. It's been a pleasure to chat with you and get to know you, and have a lot. Some of your colleagues right here, chiming in on the chat. That's very cool, and thank you guys for joining us. Before I let you go, Coach, is there anything off the top of your head you'd like to share with our audience, or any messages or anything like that?
Well, a couple of things that I think that are really paramount in my mind about this whole profession, and that is the relationships that you form with especially with your players. It's a lot different than being a teacher in a classroom, and you can teach and have relationships, but as a coach, you spend more time with your players than you do with your own children, and there's such an emotional attachment that you have with the people that you coach, and all the players that I've coached over the years, they're as important to me as my family, and they are family. And all the coaches, the guys that I've been their assistants, and the guys that have been my assistants, and people that have really touched my life and formed the way that I approach things. It's you want to thank them all the time, and a lot of times we don't get a chance to do that.
Sure.
But I just appreciate everything that the players have given me over the years, and I have learned from them as much, if not more, than what they've learned from me. And my colleagues in the coaching profession, man, look, they know. I think most of them, if not all of them, know that if I can help them with anything, I'll be more than happy to do so. And just a couple of things for the coaches out there. A couple of things that I think are important, and I'll let you go. But and I talk about this in the first chapter of the book. You always have to remember that there's not another you out there on the court. A lot of times, more often than not, and almost all, that they don't love the game like you do. They don't know the game like you do. and many times if you were a player, they're not as good as you were, and they don't do it for a living, and you do, so sometimes you have to remind yourself that they don't have that same commitment that I do, and it helps you keep things in perspective. And sometimes we want more than they can possibly give, and I think you can coach to character and honor and integrity, and all the other things will follow, and all the skills will be enhanced by that, and they might remember, they might not remember what you said, they might not remember what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And I think that's important, and to also hold them responsible for who they are and what they do. And they will appreciate that as they get older, and if we kind of keep everything in perspective, and don't put the almighty wins, the wins and losses foremost in your mind, I think you'll end up winning more than you thought you would.
Right.
If you kind of approach it that way, and that's just been my experience over the years, So, but I appreciate you having me on, and this is a lot of fun. Anytime you get a chance to talk about your profession and what you love and what you've been doing for so long, and all the great memories and all the relationships that you've had, and if all my guys out there, if they got some guys listening, man, hey, just keep those phone calls coming, because that means more to us coaches, as you know, Harry, than anything. To keep in touch with us, and that's the most important thing. That's our reward.
Absolutely.
For being in the profession.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I just want to say thank you, and it was an honor to have you on. I do appreciate your time. I do appreciate sharing, a little bit about your journey, and about what you've gone through and what you did, and testament to your colleagues here in the chat as well. And I'm sure once you share that link of our recorded episode to all of your players and all your other coaches and friends as well, they're going to feel the same vibe that we're feeling right now with you being on the show. So thank you again. I do appreciate you.
And just let me, before we go, one thing, I just want to thank Coach Ward.
Coach Ward, yes, I was about to get to that.
Coach Ward, my last assistant coach at North Shore, Coach Ward is the one that kind of connected you and I, and wanted to thank Coach for that. And he's a basketball junkie, that guy, man.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I had the blessed opportunity to be one of his assistants. He was the first. I was second on the line out there at Cal State Dominguez Hill. So Coach Ward, thank you very much for making this connection with Coach Hernandez and I. I do appreciate, love you, brother. And Coach, much love and success in all that you do. Thank you for the book. Here again, people, if you haven't already checked out the website, 600 plus little things that make a big difference for boys and girls basketball coaches. Check it out. Check out that website. Go ahead and order yourself a copy. Give it, if you don't think you're going to be reading it, but somebody else will, one of your coaches in your network, give it to a coach. It's the season for giving anyways, right? We got the holidays coming. Go ahead and give it out to your coach, and make sure you guys check out the website for the Athletic Trinity. Get Coach Hernandez there to go speak to your programs, to the parents, to the coaches out there as well. And, it's some good stuff. He does make some great points here, and we all can learn a little bit more, especially if you're trying to become a coach or get your program together, or if you are a parent who, just wants to learn a little bit more about the ins and outs about the program, expectations about coaches, what they expect, and your child as well. So, Coach Hernandez, you stay blessed. You stay safe out there. I know you guys got a lot of storms coming in. And thank you very much. Would love to have you on again in the future, just to do like a recap or an up-to-date status on the book and the second book that you might be writing, and maybe even the movie script that you might be writing during this time. So, let's definitely keep in touch. And Coach, if there's anything that I can do on my end to help you out with anything, like with the book, with the with seminars or whatever else, reach out. it's an open door. We're from that same fraternity, Coach, and just want to say it's been a pleasure to have you on and getting to know you a little bit. And
well, same here, Harry, and I
hope to keep in
appreciate
touch.
you having me on, man. I say it's a lot of fun, and look, man, anytime you need me for anything, man, just reach out, and I'm here, man. So.
And one more thing, most importantly, please tell Mrs. Hernandez thank you for the hour that she allowed you to have with us. So thank you so much. Got to give Mrs. Hernandez a shout.
Okay, man. Thank you so much. God bless.
All right, take care.
Okay.
Well, that was our episode tonight with Coach Hernandez. That was very special. I'm glad I got a chance to talk to him and get to know him a little bit, even though it was during this like a Zoom type of situation and environment. But it was great. I look forward to shaking his hand one day, and just get down to talking a little bit more about what he had to go through or what he's gone through as a coach as well. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight on this special episode of Inside the Playbook with my special guest tonight, Coach Jerry Hernandez. And again, I am your host, Harry Bulgarian. If you haven't already, please like, share, and hit that little bell and subscribe to the YouTube channel. So until next time, next Thursday will be another episode of Inside the Playbook with That's Must Watch TV. It's going to be a real good episode. Please come and watch that. And also on Sundays, I do have another program called The Show. Come and check that out, 6 p.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time. And follow me on Instagram. I post all of my updates on there as well, at harry.bulgarian _TV. And that's all going to be in the description. So thanks again, everybody. You guys be safe and have a blessed rest of your night.